I Am the Night is late season 2 after Robin joined up, but also indicates that Batman's been at this for a while now. And he's feeling the mileage. He admits to Alfred a weariness of spirit, the endless fight he has to stop crime in an inherently corrupt city. Batman doesn't want to be judge, jury, and executioner, yet it seems the system is short on judges willing to let things get to a jury, like in the case of the Penguin.
I've put out a few fires, yes. Won a few battles. But the war goes on, Alfred. On and on.
That's the thing about a war on crime. How do you know you've won? Because there will never be a day when there is no crime. That's not realistic. So what's the ultimate goal? What's the desired outcome where you can say mission accomplished? With no idea what that is, war weariness is inevitable. What doesn't help is that this is an important night. Meanwhile...
Excuse me, folks. Spare some change? Trying to get bus fare home.
Sure.
Works every time.
Yeah, 2 or 3 more of those and you can buy a cup of coffee. But there's a big deal going down and the cops are ready to move in on it, with Batman's help. First, Batman is revisiting the site of his parents' murder to lay flowers, in the company of an old friend. He even wonders if this should be the last time, if he should put the past behind him. But no time to think, the panhandler gets roughed up by goons who own that territory and want their cut. The kid's not the least grateful when Batman steps in, but he doesn't do it for the gratitude, so he hands the kid over to that woman who, it turns out, runs the Mitchell Street Mission. Hopefully she can straighten the kid out. This slows him down, though, so when the cops finally move in, they don't have Batman on the inside to disrupt things. Now that shouldn't be a problem, except the deal was actually a setup. The Jazzman wanted to draw them in order to kill Commissioner Gordon. Batman arrives and tosses in some tear gas and chases down the escaping Jazzman, but Gordon was shot during all the commotion, and he's in critical condition. Batman pays a visit, joined by Barbara Gordon, and unfortunately by Bullock. He holds Batman accountable for both being late and not knowing this was a setup. Batman just leaves.
You hear me? You're going down for this! I ain't talking law! I'm talking you and me!
Oh, there's a threat that'll have him looking over his shoulder. Batman heads back to his cave and proceeds to trash the place in frustration. What the hell kind of bats do you have around here? Meanwhile, in court, People versus Mr. Jazzman. That's Jazzman, damn it. The Jazzman gets sent off to await his trial, but given where we are, getting out is just a matter of asking the right person. There's practically an app for it in Gotham. But he won't skip town. He wants to make sure that Gordon dies first. He's settling an old score for ruining the best payday he would have ever had. And that's not easy to do when you do jazz. Meanwhile, Dick Grayson swings by because it's been 3 days of Bruce moping around in the cave in the costume. And that's worrying behavior, even by his standards.
I chose this life. I used the night. I became the night. Sooner or later, I'll go down. It might be the Joker, or Two-Face, or just some punk who gets lucky. My decision. No regrets.
Not that. That's actually a healthy sense of self-awareness. No matter how much you prepare, even Batman is going to wind up in a situation where it goes south and there's no way out. His problem is that his mistake taking his life is fine, but taking someone else's isn't. Even if Commissioner Gordon accepted the risks, sooner or later someone else is likely going to wind up in the same situation. And meanwhile, they merchandise him. He's supposed to be a symbol that criminals can't operate in the shadows unchallenged, and instead, he's on a t-shirt to be sold to tourists.
When you look too long into the abyss looks back through you. Maybe it's time for Batman to return to the night that spawned him, before anyone else gets hurt.
That's the second half of the famous Nietzsche quote, variously translated as, "He who fights monsters should see to it that, in the process, they do not become a monster. And when you gaze for long into the abyss, The abyss gazes also into you. While the point of the first in isolation is obvious, its connection informs the second about what happens when you allow yourself to consider the abyss. If one looks at something that conveys the meaninglessness of everything, one risks concluding that therefore everything is meaningless, as Bruce is doing now. This isn't the same as in the past. See, Bruce gazed into the long dark night, but he didn't choose to let it gaze into him. Instead, he chose, as the title says, to become the night. He didn't allow darkness to grow in him. Rather, he chose darkness to be an ally. Batman is the Dark Knight because he is a paladin of light. He has just chosen darkness to be his cloak. Meanwhile, the Jazzman escapes and is hiding in Gotham, and Robin has had it with Bruce's inaction. He suits up to go out himself, but his words have convinced Batman that he's got to get off his bad ass and take care of this. He's going to have to hurry, though. The Jazzman has already knocked out a window washer to use his rig to get up to Gordon's floor. Batman arrives just in the nick of time, although in the struggle the rig is damaged, and they're left dangling over an unpleasant fall. Batman gets it under control, though, and although that winds up knocking the Jazzman into the room, Batman gets inside in time to stop him from killing Gordon. After a touching reunion with him, Batman spots the kid from the other night and goes to deal with him, only to find that going to the mission has finally convinced him it was time to head home, which is where he's going. Batman completely changed this kid's life for the better. Nietzsche would have been proud. I Am the Night shows that Batman the Animated Series didn't write down to the target audience. It wrote at a level and asked them to rise to it. It trusted the kids to follow it. Because what it wanted them to see was that the hero was not an icon. It's a profound lesson on the driving force of a character. The Batman of my youth fought crime because that's what he does. That's what he was. Batman the superhero. The Batman of this series, as he puts it, chose this life. That showed kids the vital distinction. Batman throws down the mask, and then he takes it up again. The Batman of my youth was a superhero because that's what he was. The Batman here was a superhero because that's who he was. The former is so because he simply can't be anything else. The latter is so because he won't choose anything else. He's not a scorpion in a fable who must surrender to his nature. He is a man who has chosen a path, and when the road becomes so hard he had to stop, he did until he could find the strength to walk it again. My decision, no regrets. He could stop for good, but he doesn't because he wouldn't be able to live with himself if he had the power to help and did nothing. If by choosing himself that some other kid would see his parents die a senseless death because of the ubiquity of crime. I have promises to keep, he says when he leaves Crime Alley to confront the Jazzman, and that's the promise to his parents. I Am the Night is a renewing of vows.
All hail